Joining me right now is Florida Congressman, House Armed Services Committee member, and former Green Beret commander, Michael Waltz. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. Sure, I know you were briefed on the crises yesterday. I saw some of your comments. I want to get to the briefing in a moment. But what did you make of what Kirby just told us?
Well, it's not surprising. It's a classic tactic of Russia and its FSB, which was the follow-on agency to the KGB, and back in the Soviet Union and even now today. This is, again, a long-standing tactic. I am glad that the administration declassified it and exposed it and really kind of gave the world a heads up. So we'll see.
What was most important from your standpoint in terms of the briefing that you received yesterday on the Russia-Ukraine standoff?
Well, Putin continues to send huge portions of his military from east to west, from Siberia and his eastern armies to the border of Ukraine. The buildup in Belarus, which is by far the fastest route to Kyiv, is incredibly significant. Maria, bottom line is he's throwing the whole kitchen sink at this thing. He's moving strategic forces, space forces, parts of his fleet. His Pacific fleet is transiting over, and his northern fleet. This is an incredibly serious situation. And if this was all just for leverage in diplomacy, this would have to be the most expensive and largest ruse in modern history.
Well, it doesn't sound like this is a guy who is not going to invade Ukraine. Are you expecting an invasion? What do you think?
I am expecting invasion. I expect it to happen towards the tail end of the Olympics. Beyond that point, he risks shortening his timeline so that spring comes and the ground begins to thaw, which would be a problem. But look, Maria, the only thing that I think will deter him is if he becomes convinced that this will be much harder, longer, bloodier, and more of a quagmire militarily than he's currently estimating. And that's why the administration should be saying we will continue the lethal aid even after an invasion. We will continue to support a resistance, any type of Ukrainian resistance that goes on. I think the only way we can get inside his calculus and hopefully still deter an invasion is going down that road.
So you mentioned the Olympics. You're expecting it at the tail end of the Olympics. Now the world will see Vladimir Putin buddying it up with Xi Jinping at the Olympics. They met each other before the Olympics opening ceremonies is happening now. The State Department warned China against helping Russia dodge potential U.S. sanctions related to the Ukraine crisis. But Putin apparently bought Xi a new deal to help increase China's natural gas supplies. Congressman, what is your take on this partnership, friendship, whatever you want to call it, between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping?
Well, it's a win-win right now for both of them. China has shown support for Russia's position on NATO and Ukrainian aggression, which is ridiculous, but rhetorically important for Putin right now. And what I'm looking at is the potential gas deal. It's called the Power of Siberia 2. It would pull from the same gas fields in Russia and move through Mongolia into China, same gas fields that currently supply Europe, and truly then would put Putin in a power position of whether he could completely turn things off to Europe or at least dial it way down to cause a lot of pain while still having gas go to market with China. And also be in a position of playing highest bidder. So this is symbolically, Xi and Putin will be standing side by side, really trying to send the message to the world at new sheriffs in town. And it's not the United States and it's not NATO.
Well, I mean, it's incredible to me, and I keep saying this all week, that the one leverage point that the U.S. has is something that Joe Biden just gave to Russia 6 months ago. and that was the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And that's now what our only leverage in terms of getting in front of that. Congressman, real quick, a point on China. You've been so great, showing such leadership on the CCP as well as these foreign affairs threats. Your thoughts on where the CCP is in terms of its goals, wanting to take over Taiwan, wanting to continue to undermine the United States as well, intellectual property theft, and then, of course, the genocide.
Well, you know, it has this massive propaganda platform over the next few weeks. The entire in the Beijing Olympics, the entire world is turning a blind eye to COVID, the COVID cover-up, the genocide that's ongoing, the stamping out freedom of Hong Kong and Tibet, the aggression across the South China Sea. You know, it's really saddening, disheartening, and I was the first in Congress to call for a full boycott. We absolutely should not be there, and every single one of those Olympic sponsors should be ashamed of themselves. They're absolute hypocrites. And I've introduced a measure, Maria, to repeal the tax-exempt status from the IOC to the tune of billions of dollars. NBC's contract alone, $7.5 billion, and they sent $800 million into Beijing. But I think steady as she goes with the CCP until Xi is reelected at the party Congress this November, and then we are in a very dangerous window between then and November of 24.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like, and that's because you're counting on a new president to push back on the CCP's totalitarianism, I assume. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much. Michael Waltz joining us this morning in Florida. We'll be right back.